Hello, welcome to Granada Reports. We're live with the latest across the northwest.
Hello, on the programme this evening.
The Barrow schoolboy stabbed a number of times at school by another pupil. He's been flown to Alderhay Hospital, where we have the latest tonight.
The Northwest family backing a campaign for more support for people with Tourette's.
You can't just say, oh, it's complex, so let's just off you go. We're not doing anything. You have to try.
You've joined us for a waltz here at Blackpool Tower Ballroom, but it's what's under their dancing feet that's stealing the show. More coming up.
He's the bully boy of darts. He's loving life down on the farm, but when it comes to his next big challenge, will he be ruffling a few feathers or is he counting his chickens?
And it's sausages for Beans the dog. Meet the Bernese mountain dog from Cheshire, who's a regular at his local chippy.
So lots of reasons to stay with us tonight. First, though, the 15-year-old boy from Barrow who's in hospital tonight after being stabbed multiple times at his school by a fellow pupil.
Yeah, it happened this morning just after 10 o'clock. The boy, who's 15, was airlifted to Alderhay Hospital, where he remains this evening.
Our correspondent Andy Bonner is there for us tonight. Andy, a shocking case, news of yet another young person caught up in the horror of knife crime.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It certainly appears that way tonight, Lucy. Alderhay Hospital has a dedicated helipad here, usually reserved for the most urgent of cases. And so it was here this morning that the 15-year-old, a student at Walney School, was brought by air ambulance. He was suffering from multiple stab wounds to his body following the incident inside the school. This evening, I can tell you, hopefully some good news that he is in a stable condition. Those injuries are thought to not be life-threatening. But it was just at 10:10 that emergency crews were called to the school, and just half an hour later, the 16-year-old suspect was detained by police at nearby Barrow railway station. Well, the school's headmaster, John Richardson, has said that the whole school community is in shock at what has happened, and he's offered his thoughts and prayers to the victim and to his family. He has also written to parents at the school, offering support for any students who've been affected by what has happened. And all this comes, of course, after another teenager died after being stabbed on the street in Greater Manchester. 6 teenagers so far have been arrested in relation to what happened to 16-year-old Kenny Carter in Stretford at the weekend. Now, while it may seem that such incidents are becoming more commonplace in our cities, they are certainly not usual in places like Barrow. Today, Lord Walney, the town's former MP, John Woodcock, has described the incident there as terrible news. Tonight, the 16-year-old suspect remains in police custody.
Andy, thank you.
Well, next this evening, to the devastating impact of rising drug and alcohol deaths in our region.
Increased isolation and financial worries with the COVID pandemic has pushed a growing number of people towards addiction. Last year, one treatment centre in the northwest saw more than 450 admissions. That's compared to 115 in 2015. It's treated people with addictions to drugs, drink, gaming, gambling and sex.
Well, we've been talking to one man whose addiction meant his life spiralled out of control. But, as he's been telling our correspondent, Elaine Wilcox, all that changed the moment he asked for help.
After more than a decade of battling drug and alcohol addiction, Matthew Ingram was broke and didn't want to live anymore.
When I got to the age of 26, I inherited £100,000 from a family friend. I blew the money in about 6 months on all my addictions. I progressed to crack cocaine at that point as well, and I was suicidal by the end of it.
Matthew spent a month in Runcorn in residential rehab after begging his mum for help.
I was safe here. It was like a little safety bubble. I loved this place. This was my second home. I stayed here for 28 days. It was among the best 28 days of my life. It started off hard. I mean, it does for everyone. New surroundings, being clean and sober for the first time in so many years. But I really got to grips with all the treatment. I met some amazing people. I grew. I came back to life, basically.
But residential centres like these say demand is now off the scale. There's been a 32% rise in drug-related deaths in the northwest at a time when the pandemic has exacerbated the addiction crisis. At this drug and alcohol facility, admissions have quadrupled, but asking for help is an important first step on the road to recovery.
Sometimes it can almost feel like a conveyor belt because as one person leaves, we've got one waiting to come in straight away, so there's a fast turnaround. People working from home, obviously it impacted on people maybe not having to curb the drinking and drug taking during the day for work purposes. It's getting worse, it's not going to improve anytime soon.
Matthew's lost 3 friends to addiction and has written a book about his experience and a blog to help other addicts.
There is help out there if you want it, and it is hard to find sometimes, but you'll be surprised. And there is a way out, and it's not death, and it's not using more drugs and alcohol, because it's not the answer. Just reach out.
So tell me about what else you've been doing and how has your life changed since you've entered recovery?
Matthew's been drug-free since 2019 and comes back to share his experience of turning his life around. 2 people are in recovery here right now after reading his story. Elaine Wilcox, ITV News, Runcorn.
And thanks to Matthew for talking to us. Well, earlier I spoke to Nuno Albuquerque, an addiction counsellor at Oasis Recovery Runcorn, and started by asking him what the current situation is there.
We see many people coming into our services. We have more admissions than ever, and we do think that the COVID situation didn't help.
You have had a steady increase in the number of admissions over the last 6 years. It's quadrupled in that time. So it's not just COVID that's had an effect on those numbers coming into you.
COVID didn't help as well. But we also know that on the last years, there is a lot of budgets being cut for people that are struggling with substances. So people are struggling to find services to help them. They'll try to do it in the community, perhaps even with their GP, trying to do on their own.
So what can be done about it?
I think we need to reinvest in people's welfare. So up to 2013, there was a protection of the money that was spent for substance misuse and alcohol treatment services. That protection has been removed, and that money is being spent in any kind of health issues that people will come across, right? So it's about to kind of protect that money to be spent on substance misuse and alcohol services.
And I guess addiction doesn't just affect the addicted, it has a potential impact on all the people, family, friends, loved ones who are associated with the person who suffers from the addiction.
Everyone gets affected by addiction. So you might end up people linked with the person that is using drugs, suffering from depression, anxiety, and all other issues.
And Nina, what would your advice be for somebody who believes that they may well be developing an addiction?
Just speak with someone. I think that's the first step, because if you speak with someone, it gets easier. If they don't feel confident enough, again, there are other services that they can reach out. They can come to our website. They can go to self-help groups.
And just finally, Nuno, given that we have seen a 4-fold increase in admissions for your facilities, if you were in a room with government ministers, those who are making the decisions about where the money is spent and how it should be spent, what would you be saying to them right now?
Take this pandemic very serious, because this is not only affecting the person that is using, but affecting the whole community.
OK, Nuno Albuquerque, many thanks indeed for joining us this afternoon. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Thank you.
Now then, in politics, there is only one thing that you're all contacting us about at the moment: the Prime Minister and his birthday cake. It's now confirmed that the Metropolitan Police are investigating alleged rule breaches after an ITV report about his birthday celebration during lockdown.
Yeah, we're crossing live to Westminster for the latest after a few of the many views that have come into us from you at home. For example, this one from Sam in Hayward. I am so enraged at this government. They have laughed at us for 2 years, almost demanding we obey rules all the time, living their lives how they want.
But we always say that all views are welcome. Carl, for example, says it is the hysterical lefties who need to grow up. The hyperbole and hypocrisy will keep them on the opposition benches for another decade.
Yeah, and Mike Holden in Burnley. It's not the cake or the subtle definition of what is or isn't a party. It's the hypocrisy of making rules and ignoring them.
Yeah, keep them coming in. We always read every one of them. Well, our political correspondent Leisha McNally joins us now live from Westminster. Leisha, lots of reaction from people at home right across the North West. What's the reaction been in Parliament to this latest development?
Well, to be honest, Lucy, it feels like the calm right in the middle of a massive storm. It is, of course, a terrible look to have a Prime Minister at the centre of a police investigation. But in the question of whether or not Boris Johnson gets to hang on to his job, this might well have bought him some time to shore up his support. Conservative MPs I spoke to last week said they wanted to wait for the results of Sue Gray's inquiry before deciding whether Boris Johnson still had their support. Now, of course, many will want to wait for the results of the police investigation, and that could take a lot longer. Now, Boris Johnson says he welcomes this action by the Metropolitan Police as a chance to give the public clarity and, in his words, to help draw a line under these matters. And I think it's pretty interesting that the Rossendale and Darwin MP, Jake Berry, who's a sometimes ally and sometimes critic of the Prime Minister, thinks that on balance this is a good thing. The chance at least to reassure constituents that the Partygate scandal is being investigated fully.
While I wouldn't want to prejudge any investigation, it does seem to me that a proper investigation by the police is a good way of reassuring the public that this issue has been properly dealt with. And I think, in fact, almost counterintuitively, it's almost strengthens the Prime Minister's position, because it is no longer a matter of opinion, it is a matter of law.
But even if cleared in matters of law, there is, of course, still a great deal of anger into those allegations about Downing Street drinking. We could have Sue Gray's report into what happened published by as early as tomorrow, and of course no one knows if the contents are such that the public are likely to forgive. According to Angela Rayner, the Ashton-under-Lyne MP and deputy leader of the Labour Party, those angry comments that we've just heard are only the tip of the iceberg.
Just weeks ago, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister told this House there was no party. How does the Paymaster General explain that? I know across the country people know enough. They have made up their minds about the Prime Minister, so when will his party catch up?
Yeah, and I'm sure the courts of public opinion will play a big part too. Leisha, as some of our viewers have already said, all of this is a big distraction from the serious matters in Parliament, isn't it?
Undoubtedly a big distraction, Gamal, and depending on who you ask, either the reason why we should all move on or why the Prime Minister should go. But yes, the business of politics ticks on. And today in Westminster Hall there was a big moment for one Merseyside MP, Conor McGinn. He's been working with one of his constituents, fighting for better support and funding for people with Tourette syndrome. And today that campaign took a major step forward, much to the relief of hundreds of families. 12-year-old Joshua from Rochdale lives with the effects of Tourette's every moment of his day. For him, it means chronic, almost constant muscle tics, jerks, sniffs and facial grimaces.
It is a very debilitating condition. You ache because these are muscle movements at the end of the day, so you experience pain from that condition. It's not pleasant. And mentally it affects Josh. It raises his anxiety because of the negativity surrounding it. He gets, what you're doing, what's that noise, who's that, can you stop that? That you can't stop it, they're involuntary.
Joshua's mum Sarah has spent 5 years since his diagnosis looking for the right help.
We've had a couple of sessions of kind of tic reversal therapy, which he couldn't do because he has learning difficulties. He wasn't able to maintain, the strategies, retain the information to do it really. It's quite difficult. You just get told Joshua is complex. He has autism, he has ADHD and epilepsy as well as Tourette's. but you can't just say, oh, it's complex, so let's just off you go. We're not doing anything. You have to try.
Tourette syndrome is more common than many think, affecting one school child in every 100. But campaigners are worried that provision for these children is getting worse. 10 years ago, there were 44 consultants with a special interest in Tourette's. Now, there are just 17 who will see children on the NHS, and none are in the North West, leaving some families having to go to London to access support. It's that postcode lottery which Emma McNally in St Helens is fighting to fix.
Yeah, well, I've recently done a survey. 61% of people who answered the survey in the North West got diagnosed and then discharged at the same appointment. So they got diagnosed and then sent home and said that there's nothing else that could be offered to them. How can this be possible that you can have a condition that affects 1 in 100 people, but you can't find someone to provide any care? I just thought, how's that even possible?
Emma's local MP today led a debate in Parliament's Westminster Hall, hoping to raise more awareness of the challenges that families face.
I was very encouraged by the Minister's response. Gillian Keegan was sympathetic. She noted all the points that I made on behalf of the families that I've been working with. She's looking immediately at reinstating some sort of provision in the North West. It was previously in Alderhay and Liverpool, and we hope that we can bring that to fruition. But she also committed to looking properly at what we can do to provide more research, more early intervention and ongoing care.
And as North West parents carry on caring for their children, they'll be watching Westminster closely, hoping to see these commitments come to life. Leisha McNally, ITV News.
Well, next, and when it comes to ballroom dancing, we're usually way too distracted by the dancers to notice the dance floor.
Although we do have a rather nice dance floor here. Gamal and myself were going to dance across it for you, but we decided that we better not, really.
I'll just shift from side to side, that'll do.
That's what most men do, isn't it?
Hey!
Sorry, it's a bit sexist, I know, but I think it is probably true. Anyway, after years of being shuffled, tapped and stomped on, the dance floor at Blackpool Tower Ballroom is finally stepping into the limelight itself after a restoration costing £1 million.
So, just what did it take to bring the world's most famous dance floor back to its sparkling best? Sarah Rogers went along to find out.
Dancers have been waltzing to the Wurlitzer at Blackpool's Tower Ballroom for decades, but now the damage from those dancing feet has been peeled away to reveal pristine parquet. Opening its doors for the first time since the latest restoration, we tried to keep up with the critics to see what they made of it.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I'm 84 and I've been coming here a long time, and it is absolutely beautiful.
Is it as good as when you were 24?
Well, there are a lot of boys about now.
So what makes a good dance floor?
It's a consistent surface. Sometimes it can be sticky, sometimes it can be quite shiny and slippy, but it's very consistent today. Wonderful.
It's great. How long have you been dancing for?
Oh, about 10 minutes. No, about 25 years.
And definitely not short of a move or two. The special sprung floor has been refurbed as part of restoration work costing more than £1 million, and this is what it looked like before. Varnish over varnish for 30 years. It's taken 3 weeks to restore.
Well, what you're looking at down there is 30,602 separate blocks of walnut, oak and mahogany, and 100 layers of lacquer has been painstakingly removed.
There was a lot of blood, sweat and tears went into it at the start to get the lacquer off. You know, generally it's seal on top of dirt, on top of seal, on top of dirt, and it just builds up. You know, it is just another wood floor sanding job for us, but in a bit of a unique situation. And then when you walk in here this morning, you talk to the dancers and how much it means to them and what their feeling was about the floor and how much easier it is for them to dance. It was emotional, it was nice.
And one of the first faces through the door, a rather well-known one, taking a break from his own show down the road at the Grand Theatre. He couldn't resist coming for a peek.
So what what are you doing here, Joe?
You can't come to Blackpool and be here in the same day they open the Tower Ballroom again, not have a cup of tea and watch this. This is amazing, isn't it? And you know, it's like you walk in here and you feel the atmosphere of the building, and this bloke on the organ is fantastic.
Do you dance?
Well, not like this, I don't. No, but I'd like to learn.
Well, I can think of a few people here who'll teach you a thing or two, and where better to learn.
You know, I call this the Wembley Arena of ballroom dancing. There's no better place to come and enjoy this experience. There's nowhere else in the country that does it, so that's why it's important.
But what about you? How are your dancing feet?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, I've got 2 left feet, although I have done a knee slide, if that counts.
So taking the shine away from the quick steppers today is what's underneath their feet, keeping Blackpool the belle of the ballroom. Sarah Rogers, ITV News in Blackpool.
Yeah, loving the floor, loving the moves, all those men proving me wrong.
Amazing transformation.
Fantastic.
Incredible.
Well done to everyone involved in that. On to sport now. Great news. Our skiing World Cup hero is back on the slopes tonight, Chris.
Yes, he's keeping that momentum going with the big one, of course, starting next week. Lancashire skier Dave Riding, fresh from that historic World Cup win at the weekend, is hoping for another impressive result tonight. After becoming the first Brit to win an Alpine World Cup event, he's back in slalom action. It's Riding's last race before he heads to Beijing for the Winter Olympics. He has a lot of work to do, though. He's 15th after his first run. We'll let you know how he gets on tomorrow. On to football now, and Blackburn Rovers are keeping their Premier League dream alive. Last night, they beat Middlesbrough 1-0 at Ewood Park to move back into the Championship's automatic promotion places.
Getting that winning feeling. Fords of Winsford sponsors the Granada Sport Report.
Next to darts, and this week the new season begins with the Masters on ITV4 from Friday. For St Helens' Michael Smith, it can't come soon enough after the disappointment of losing the World Championship final at the start of this month. He's turned to Sir Andy Murray for inspiration to put his bad luck in finals behind him. And he's also told me where his Bully Boy nickname comes from.
Michael Smith!
He's one of the world's top 5 arrow flingers, but the biggest prizes keep slipping through his fingers. That second World Championship final defeat at the hands of Peter Wright still feels so wrong.
If I don't want the runners-up, I've got too many of them trophies now. They're collecting dust. I want the nice, clean winners' trophies now.
How many runners-up has it been?
Been a few. I feel about 8 to 9, I think. I know I can be the #1 player in the world, I can be the best player in the world, but I can't say that until I get that first title. Making the finals is a good thing, but after so many times and you keep losing it starts getting on top of you, but you just got to keep believing and keep looking forward and looking ahead.
The support for you and your story has been growing so much over the years that when you do win a final, it's going to absolutely explode for you, popularity-wise.
I think more people are willing it more than I am at the minute now. I kind of felt at the World Champs like I'd never ever had my name chanted when I'm playing. There's the odd few like my parents or my wife, my kids, but I was having the full arena shouting my name, and it felt nice. And I feel like the Tim Edmund of tennis, where you're expecting it to happen, it just doesn't quite yet, but I won't stop until I get it.
And the parallels with tennis don't stop there. Despite some dark moments, Michael can see daylight because of a night.
It was just Federer, and then there was Nadal, Djokovic, and like same darts now you've got Michael, Gers, Anderson, Peter Wright. Andy Murray kept battling, and then look what he did, he won the Wimbledon, he started to win his majors, and has it I won.
We've seen some incredible videos of your family. Are you aware of how much you're putting them through it, as much as you?
Yeah, when I watch the videos, you can see the stress on the face, and you can see they're more nervous every time the round goes on, so it's funny looking at that, but that's why I play darts. It's for them, it's not for me. I just want the title, everything that comes with it is theirs.
This weekend, they'll go through these emotions all over again as Michael takes on the Masters, with the world's top 24 ready to marvel Milton Keynes. Bully Boy has been warming up by mucking out chickens after moving to a farm.
Yeah, we've got all the chickens, ducks, black swans, 2 horses. I grew up on summer holidays working on a cow farm. That's how I got my nickname Bully, so...
That's where the nickname Bully Boy comes from?
Yeah, no.
Not from darts?
Yeah, when I was about 13, I was on my mate's farm and we had to tag the calves. When I've got hold of the calf in a headlock, he forgot the wrong tag. So for about half an hour, I'm getting battered by a 3-day-old calf, getting slammed into walls, and And when he come back, I was on my back with the cow's legs in the air, and he called me a bully from that. So when I was looking for a darts name, it was the first thing that come to my head.
It's the start of a frantic season for Michael, whose next weekend off is in 2023. So plenty more opportunities for a final flourish. Yeah, the fantastic Michael Smith. You can see him on ITV4 from Friday.
Got to be his turn, Chris.
Has to
Thank
be.
you. We'll be cheering him on. Thank you.
Next, to a dog by the name of Beans, who's so popular in Nantwich that everywhere he goes, he gets treats.
Yeah, which from a dog's point of view is a great result. He is also a massive hit on TikTok, where he has almost 4 million people watching his antics.
Our reporter Rob Smith went along to meet him this lunchtime, where he was, you guessed it, heading to his local chip shop.
Just off to see my mate in the chippy. I get a sausage every time I pass by.
Wandering into shops with a wag of the tail, tasty treats magically appear. Beans the Bernese mountain dog has attracted millions of fans with videos of his search for sausages in his hometown of Nantwich.
Empty hands are not good.
Today, we followed Beans' nose.
He knows where the food is.
From cafe to cafe, shop to shop, to find out why no one can resist him.
He's huge, he looks like a bear, and he's got beautiful eyes, but that makes him perfect. Best part of my day. 100% best part of my day. Look at him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, of course. That's like the best customer you could get. Oh, you're coming in this side. You're coming this side. Okay, hi. Hello. Here.
It's sausage hunt time. Let's go.
Beans owner Wesley Newton began posting videos online as a hobby in lockdown, showing off what he and his pet got up to every day. One video alone now has nearly 4 million views, and Beans' diet is out the window.
Right, okay.
He's not going to need feeding tonight.
I know he isn't. That's what I've been saying the last few weeks. He's meant to be losing weight when he comes out for a walk, but he seems to be putting it all back on.
Back on, maybe, because the Hungry Hounds visited his favourite chippy more than 100 times since the start of lockdown.
I think just because he's adorable, I think that's his secret.
You just seem to be feeding him over and over again here.
I don't think we have a choice. He keeps popping by.
Red beans. Ooh, thank you.
Beans will never struggle to attract bar staff's attention or persuade someone to part with whatever snacks in their bag. A trek for treats being watched worldwide. Rob Smith, ITV News, Nantwich.
I think he wanted the pint. Now the weather with Joe.
He's cooked up a storm and now's going to scrape the fat into the bin instead of the sink. My guy.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hang on, was that fish?
Thank you. Very good evening to you. Gloomy and cold today. Temperatures will begin to lift just a little bit over the next couple of days. Another relatively cloudy day to come tomorrow and dry, but a bit more in the way of brightness perhaps than we've seen today. Increasing winds through the afternoon and some rain due for all of us tomorrow night. In a bit more detail then, we've had high pressure in charge, but it's just slipping away for a time, allowing a front to bring some rain during tomorrow night. That will clear through, but windy as we go through tomorrow and on Wednesday. A bit of brightness here and there, but rather cloudy skies as we end the week, and more rain as we run into this weekend. Back to this evening though, it's generally dry and there'll be some low cloud, mistiness and fog reforming as we go through the night across the patch, particularly up on higher ground in the Lakeland Fells, Pennine areas, the Peak District through tonight. It's dry with temperatures dipping down low enough for a touch of frost, but tending to rise just a little bit as we head towards dawn. On to tomorrow, and the sun will be up at 8:07, setting at 4:40 tomorrow afternoon. For tomorrow then, mistiness and fog to start the day, particularly for Pennine areas and again for the Lake District. It's dry though from the word go, with a few glimmers of brightness getting out mid-morning, maybe some sunshine here and there, before cloud begins to build once more through the afternoon ahead of that rain that's pushing in for tomorrow night. As you can see as well, winds just picking up a pace, particularly for exposed western coast tomorrow afternoon. It'll become quite breezy for all of us, but it's milder than it has been today, 8 or 9 Celsius tomorrow. Rain moves through tomorrow night. That will clear through on Thursday. Quite a dull end to the week, but dry until the weekend.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Bob! Amy!
Thanks, Joe. So guess what our most popular story was tonight?
Hands down, Beans.
I think so.
Bye-bye.
Bye.